Hi, welcome to Write More Light. My name is Sarah. I'm with the Midwest Writing Center, and this is a web series. Um, for folks who are new to Write More Light or have maybe only seen the version of the series in which I give a short writing lesson, this is an interview day. So, what to expect from this video is I'm going to interview someone very freaking cool. And then I will give updates on the Midwest Writing Center, and then we'll have a quick writing prompt and it will be a fun time. I'm super excited about today's guest. When I did interview this person before once, and I was so nervous because I read her book and it was so good. And I was like, cool, I have to act like a normal person now. So I'm excited to introduce to you Tatiana Schlote-Bonne, author of the YA horror novel Such Lovely Skin and the forthcoming adult horror novel The Mean Ones that's coming out this September. She has an MFA from the nonfiction writing program at the University of Iowa. When she's not writing, she's either gaming, lifting heavy weights, or teaching people how to lift heavy weights. She's a proud parent of two cats, Momo and Yuri. Thank you so much for hanging out with me.
Yeah, thank you, Sarah. It's so great to be here. I have my skin
Beautiful
with
book.
me. Yeah, bright blue. Yeah, I had such a great time chatting with you last time. Excited to be here again.
Yeah, so I didn't include the context for that. I reviewed Such Lovely Skin for Little Village magazine, and I was able to every once in a while I'm able to interview the authors of the books I read, and why would I ever say no to that? That's an awesome thing to do. So that's where we've met, and I'm so excited. I accidentally pulled up my notes from that interview, and I was like, no, different things.
This one. Yeah.
I like typed your name into my search or whatever. Oh my God, I just did it again. Okay, close it. Um, okay, so first I want to talk about Such Lovely Skin. Um, which is, well, can you give us a synopsis of Such Lovely Skin so that we know what we're talking about? Or I can,
Yeah.
I'm going to do a worse job.
Yeah, no, I will. So it's about Vivian, a 17-year-old Twitch streamer who's grieving the recent death of her baby sister. She plays this evil video game, and the video game prompts her to tell it a secret. And so she confesses what really happened to her baby sister and how she feels where she is responsible. And then this demonic mimic slowly infiltrates her life and turns everyone against her.
I love how
Yeah.
you said it like you're like, no big.
Yeah.
It's I keep saying that I'm like new to horror and it's been 9 years that I've been doing horror in my life.
Yeah.
Doing horror. You know, I'm up to no good. Um, but I am new to reading horror. I feel like when I think about horror, I think about Halloween as a genre. Um,
Hmm. Yeah.
so it was a really special experience for me. I was like, well, I like, okay. I love YA and I get really mad about children's literature being like sectioned off into like genre categories, first of all.
Hmm.
A good book is a good book. We have never, ever, I'm so sorry, anyone who's ever had YA come up in a conversation with me has heard me say this. We don't put To Kill a Mockingbird in children's lit, but as we came up with children's lit as a marketing thing, we decided if the narrator is this age, that's the audience for the book. So, Kill a
Yeah.
Mockingbird is a special example, I think. So anyway, I was like, okay, well, if it's YA, I can handle it. I like horror, but I'm pretty sure I'm a big weenie. I could handle it, but I like was not comfortable in my living room at night. We've got a console. Uh,
Hmm.
and was like it was that thing when you watch, a scary movie at night and you're like, I'm not, nope, the lights are on today.
Right.
Uh
Yeah.
so
I mean, that's always like the dream to create that feeling for your reader as a horror author. Yeah. So sad.
you've done
Glad it scared you.
it.
Yeah.
But I want to say that because I think that when you introduce YA, it feels like you have to add some caveats to be like, no, really, read it. Which
Yeah. No,
kind of
that
is
is super frustrating. as a YA author that I do have to justify and like get over that burden, like that hurt burden of carrying that part of its name. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a mental block for a lot of people, which yeah, is a bummer. Uh, but I wanted to say that in case folks were have that mental block and are into horror and thought like me, it won't be as scary if it's YA. I'm sure scarier things exist.
Yeah.
I you know, my suspension of disbelief is not great, but it's probably better than someone who is really engaged with horror. Um,
Yeah.
I'm like, yeah, things are gonna do that. Go bump in the night. Okay. So, teenager, Twitch streamer, uh, does a silly thing and tells a real secret to a video game. Um, and the video game creates a mimic of her that
Hmm.
ruins her life. Uh,
Yeah.
where did this idea come to you?
Um, so the initial idea was from one of my favorite horror movies, Stay Alive, where the group of college kids play a evil video game, and as they die in the game, they die for real. I just love that concept, but it just like wasn't really good. I mean, I sort of did just want to write a Stay Alive like ripoff, but it didn't like a Stay Alive fan fiction almost. But it just wasn't good novel material. And as I've been writing more and more books, I'm just like learning what really makes the interior of a story click for me. And that movie, it's fun. And I think it works on the big screen. But in the movie, you do need more depth to carry it, or else you're just like reading pointless scene. You're just like reading stuff happening and it's not interesting. Um, and so with Such Lovely Skin, I'd always written like in undergrad and grad school, like stories about guilt, like literary stories, memoir. I'm very interested in this concept of guilt and like family estrangement. Um, and so, I thought that that's probably the beating heart. Like there's an evil video game, there's a doppelganger, like that's the stuff that happens, but the story is really about guilt and forgiveness. And so that's how I developed Vivian. Um, yeah, because I always think about that. You always have the, and as someone who's been in both like the literary and the genre world, I think a lot of the literary people think that like, okay, I don't mean to like attack literary writers or anything, but having been in a lot of workshops, it does seem like there can be this air of like, oh, we're writing like the real truth about the world and like our words matter. But I'm like, horror is exactly the same. It's just you just put a monster. Like this is a story about people and the universe. And like it's just as heavy. You just don't take it as seriously because there's a slasher or something.
Well, and that's a really good you really have you've hit the nail on the head, I think, with like I could say with Viv's story in particular, she may have never dealt with her guilt if she weren't forced to. And I think that's true
Hmm.
in real life too. Um and in all the horror that really, you know, withstands the test of time, people are dealing with something real. Um and same with, I think there's plenty of I mean, there are phases in fiction that I am more or less fond of. Um, but
Yeah.
uh but yeah, I think that what you've said, and there are, plenty of human emotions and all that, but um our feelings and our experiences are our motivation, whatever the story is. So if we're dealing with them, then we're getting somewhere.
Hmm.
I've heard, well, I sort of accidentally used the term speculative nonfiction recently. And I was just like trying to say that what I was writing was I was imagining something that, I only know the
Yeah.
broad strokes about.
Hmm.
Um, but the person I was talking to was like, that's so cool, thinking genre.
Yeah.
So my question, which is not one of my prepared questions. I'm just really excited, is do you think in that way sometimes? Because I know that your MFA is in nonfiction.
Hmm.
So I want to know if that informs your nonfiction sometimes.
Yeah, like does my nonfiction inform my fiction or vice versa?
No, no, the weirder question, which is, do your do you ever find yourself inserting some horror elements,
Oh,
the weirder side into your nonfiction?
yeah. So I haven't, well, I would. I haven't written nonfiction since I graduated, which was pretty much around the same time that I started Such Lovely Skin. Actually, it's hard to remember. I kind of draft fugue state, I feel like, but I think I drafted Such Lovely Skin during the last year of my MFA. And so I would do this thing, like I would get to a stopping point and then send it and then like work on my memoir and then send that and then go back to Such Lovely Skin. I don't know what I was doing. It was very stressful working on two books
Yeah,
at
it
once.
sounds like you were like in my final year of grad school. I wrote a book that was not my grad project.
Yeah, I did. But Such Lovely Skin was fun and easy to write. Easy to write, easier than other things that I've written to write. Anyway, where I'm going with this.
No, if you're having fun, it's going to be easier.
Yeah. No, it was easier for that reason. But I don't mean to go on a tangent, but the books I've written since Such Lovely Skin, way harder. I can go into why if we want to circle back. Anyway, so no, I have not put a lot of horror or speculative elements into my nonfiction. But that totally is a thing. I know that you like kind of laughed at speculative nonfiction, but a lot of I think I
No, I
did see
want
that a little
it.
bit in my program. Yeah, no, it is totally a thing. And I have vague notions of returning to writing memoir one day, and I think I will put horror elements or at least interrogate why I'm so interested in horror more because this is something that like really came out for me like after I was done with the program anyway. Yeah.
I'm trying to remember. Um, a book came to mind, and I'm not sure if it's the book I'm thinking of. But there, I read it said it was a book of essays. I would say it's memoir. Uh,
Hmm. Yeah.
um, there's a line, and it's sometimes thin and sometimes wobbly, and sometimes there's a shadow over it, and you don't see it at all. Um,
Hmm.
Night Rooms by Gina Nutt, I feel like is really spooky. But
Hmm.
anyway,
Yeah.
uh, so I guess I knew, and I forgot, that you wrote a memoir. Now I know it's not out. Um, but that sort of, I don't know, it sort of surprises me.
Yeah.
Are you willing to talk about what motivated that project?
Yeah. Well, an essay that I wrote about it, or an essay that I wrote that ended up like becoming part of it is what I mean. That's what I turned in to get into the program.
Mhm.
So I did kind of feel like, that's what I was accepted for. And that is what I felt compelled to write in the program. Um, because I didn't think they were gonna like take Such Lovely Skin as my thesis. It was just so outside the boundaries of what I was there for. And I did want to work on the memoir. So yeah, that's just a family trauma dump project. Um, and I think it has its merits, but it does have a lot of problems and would need like a complete rewrite to be sellable, which I might do, in like 10, 15 years. I just don't feel that excited to get to it. But it's dark comedy. Yeah, I guess I haven't like said what it's about because it's not really, that's how you can tell when a book is bad, really. It's like hard to say what it's about because it doesn't really know what it's about. But I
I mean, memoirs
tried
are
to have,
memoirs.
yeah, they're memoirs. Didn't grow up with my biological mom. Lots of trauma, abandonment issues there. I tried to have my father arrested when I was 15, and he exiled me to go live with my mom's ex-boyfriend in Nevada. So that's why I moved randomly in the middle of high school. I actually talked all about this. I gave like the quick notes version of, my teen years and sort of all the major plot points of the memoir. And a podcast that I did with my gym, so I can send that to you if you're interested. I've also written several essays that have been published online. Like, my dad married this woman, so had this stepmom. And she was extremely conservative. And, like I said, I didn't grow up with my mom. And so my dad's whole plan was to secure a wife and then leave me to be raised by his super conservative wife. And so and we had, I mean, this is just like a bad thing for both of us. And so, just like lots of teenage shenanigans because, I didn't respect this woman telling me what to do with her like draconian rules. And so I would just like break every rule imaginable. And she would, just buy me like schmuck dresses from like Goodwill and like really, uh,
You
raise
said
me like I was
you said
Amish.
conservative and you meant it.
Yeah. So I've written about like, this ugly dress that she tried to send me to homecoming in, and like boyfriends I had that I would like sneak into the house. Um, yeah, so I've had essays published online, like in Narrative magazine and stuff about this and that. So yeah, if you're curious, I can drop those.
Oh, always, yeah.
Yeah.
Um,
Anyway, I
yeah,
forgot
thanks
what the
for
original question was. Something about my nonfiction. Yeah, so that's where my nonfiction uh starts from, and that's what it's about. Yeah.
well, that's a good segue for a question. Um,
Hmm.
how did your nonfiction education inform your novel writing, and or did
Yeah.
you know you were going to be writing novels when you were, becoming
Yeah,
a
I
master of nonfiction?
I didn't see myself pursuing nonfiction long term because I mean I met so many like brilliant people in the nonfiction writing program who nonfiction is just so hard. Like once you start writing outside your own experience, it's like you have to travel and like do all this research. You can't just like make it up and make it compelling. Like these are long, long projects, like 10 years for one book. And I'm like, no, I'm like a book a year person. Um, because I want to write, fun things that like, yeah, pull from my lived experience, but I want to create things. I don't want to go do a bunch of research. Like that's just not for me. It's not interesting to me. Um,
I felt that.
and But I do think that in the program, we put so much emphasis on like the quality of the prose and, um, just like line level reading and like what is the scene really saying? And just kind of like digging into, kind of what I was talking about before, like what is the story really saying? Like, why are we reading this? Like, what's the literary merit? I think that stuff still really does inform my writing.
Yeah, I mean, of course. That's totally translatable.
Hmm. Yeah, and I had one professor, I mean, she wrote a screenplay that's a movie now, and she was very much into the, structuring and like having a tightly plotted, even in nonfiction. And so that was really just an easy segue to apply to my fiction. And I think it's important for nonfiction writers to consider as well. Um, but yeah, no, it was the nonfiction writing program was definitely like the best 3 years of my life. I had health insurance. I had a steady teaching job. I had a living stipend, like the most secure I've been. And I got so much writing done. Like I absolutely utilized those 3 years like to the best that I could.
That was beautiful.
I mean, people ask me, I know I could just making up my own questions for this, but people ask me, should I get an MFA? Is an MFA worth it? And I think it depends, like, will you make it worth it? Because I think people do go to an MFA program and kind of like wait to be told what to do and kind of like float through it. And this is just like also my personality that I like dialed in was like, I'm going to write as much as possible, and like get the most out of this time.
Oh yeah, I mean, if you are able to put your life on hold in such a way that your life is just writing, like,
Hmm.
I mean,
Yeah.
that's the dream.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it was easy for me to do because I was like practically just out of undergrad and had no other life to put on hold. But yeah, I can see how for people where it's like a big career change, yeah, if you're not gonna, yeah, for a lot of people, it wouldn't be worth it.
Um, you mentioned something earlier. I don't know how many books you've written, I guess, but
Oh,
I know a lot of people talk about how hard it is to write the second book, and you said the first one was that the ones
oh yeah.
after Such Lovely Skin have been much harder. I would love to talk about that.
Yeah, so I've written what? I think five book-length manuscripts
Oh
total.
my God.
So the one that I wrote right after Such Little Skin was The Mean Ones. So that is an adult horror novel and it's dual timeline. So the present, our main timeline is about a protagonist,
Well,
Sadie,
of course that's
who's
going to be harder.
yeah, she's 29 and she's survived a cult sacrifice as a child and she's like haunted by visions and ghosts. She has really bad PTSD and she never goes to the woods. She never puts herself in any situation that like reminds her of what happened and then her boyfriend makes them go on a camping trip. So this is extremely triggering for her. And then our second timeline, the other half of the book is what happened at summer camp 17 years ago. And the cult sacrifice and all the lead up to it. So it's navigating two timelines, and the book has a very ambitious ending. Big midsummer hereditary vibes as the inspiration. Uh, and the I was just reading. Um, so the ending uh obviously don't want to spoil it, but I knew how I wanted it to end and I was like there's no way. Like it's too much, but I kept, plodding along to get there and it did end up working, but it was exhausting to pull it off and to keep track of two timelines. And also the antagonist is largely invisible um in this book. So Such Love is Skin was way easier because it followed a very typical, horror movie format. You have the protagonist. This protagonist was hard because she's, not traditionally likable. Or she's objectively like very terrible in a lot of ways, which is why I love
I
her
love it.
because she's so flawed and messed up, um, and driven by like very surface level things. Um, anyway, but you have, the doppelganger. That's just like a very traditional monster that's just like coming at her. And it was very easy to, like have the characters run away from the monster. And in the mean ones, the antagonist is largely, Sadie herself and these invisible forces. And when you have an antagonist that's not on the page, it's just the challenge to create tension and urgency, like you're writing against that. I've thoughts. I'm doing it again. I don't want to say anything about this new project in case I like don't finish it or something. So it's just like 10,000 words in my Word document. But for some reason, I've chosen again to do the sort of like invisible protagonist. The protagonist is her own antagonist kind of thing. And I'm just like, why can't I just write another Such Lovely Skin? That was way easier when there's just a monster to run away from.
I love it. Oh, wow. Yeah, of course that's hard to write. That's ambitious as hell.
Yeah.
That's not like the second book slump or struggle or whatever. That's like I built myself hurdles.
Yeah. I did
Like
want to write something that was like a little more challenging because Such Lovely Skin is very linear. It was easy-ish to write. Easy to read. I think The Mean Ones is also really easy to read, but there was a lot more layering and like intentional choices put into building it. Yeah.
I forgot what I was gonna say. Oh, I like likable characters and everything, but like it's so boring if they're not flawed. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
Like, wh
Yeah.
where is the humanity there?
I feel like my agent wishes I would just like write a normal protagonist because every book I give her, it's like, this is like a weakling, self-loathing protagonist. Or
Okay,
yeah,
but relatable.
yeah, this is like a chronic liar protagonist. This is a borderline sociopathic, no human connection protagonist. Like I just like putting people who normally wouldn't be protagonists as the protagonist. Yeah, and that does pose its own challenges and leaves me wishing, like, why can't I just write a normal protagonist? This would be way easier.
Clearly, it wouldn't be easier for you.
Yeah, yeah, it's what I gravitate toward. Yeah.
Um, so with okay, the information you've just given us is another easy question. It sounds like that requires a lot of planning. Uh,
Hmm.
are you naturally a planner with your writing? You like have your scaffolding and your I don't
Yes.
know, outlines?
Yes. Yeah, I will not start just like drafting until I have a good concept of who all the characters are, what they want, why it matters. I use Story Genius to figure out, like what is the heart of this book. I'm teaching that class at Porchlight, right? The 4-week class. And really, like the way I'm going to teach that class, very similar to how I've taught other creative writing classes, just more condensed. And we're going to very much follow Story Genius. Um, and she has, I said I wrote 5 manuscripts, right? Okay, well, the first one was okay, but it suffered from what the author of Story Genius points out is that most new writers think they have a great idea, but it's just some crazy thing that happened and they've just strung it together, which with a bunch of interesting events. And then you just have a story that's like this happened, then this happened, then this happened, then that happened. And it becomes uninteresting very fast. Whereas a story has a point and it's not strung together by a series of events, but it's a cause and effect relationship between the protagonist and antagonist. And every scene should read like, this happened, therefore this happens, therefore this happens. That is like storytelling 101. Like the South Park creators also have that very same story lesson. Anyway, um, where I was going with this is that yes, I do that myself. I take my concept, you know, evil video game, protagonist with a secret, and I plug it into a structure that makes sure that the story has a point. This is a story about self-forgiveness, and then this happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens, therefore this happens. That way the story feels propulsive, and there's a reason why we're reading it. I have started a novel thinking like, oh yeah, it's this great idea. And then I realized that I don't actually have anything to say. It just sounded cool. Um, yeah, so and then I do outline very much following like the Save the Cat beats. Plotter is also really great. That's like a literally like a book plotting app. Um, and I once I have my outline, I try
You
to
say
do like a
plotter?
yeah, plotter. It's like plots Plotter. Yeah. Yeah, no, that app is great. Um, because it makes like little cards for you and it looks very like aesthetically pleasing on your laptop. And so I look at, all the beats of my novel. And then I try to zero draft. So I will try to go through every scene and just like sketch out what the scene looks like without any editing. And then hopefully that'll leave me with like a 15 to 20,000 word version of the book. And then if all the plot points are right, then I can go back and fill in all the scenes. And it makes the writing process so much easier because I'm never wondering what happens next. I think the author of Story Genius says this, that like if you're wondering what happens next, like you've messed up somewhere in the story because the story isn't writing itself anymore. You've lost that sort of cause and effect. And so when I go into drafting, I know that I should never be wondering what happens next. I have it all ready in my scenes. And so that's how this new project I've been working on, I was still in that muck of I'm not sure what happens next. And I think I actually realized that this new thing I'm working on is going to be a very short novel, maybe like 50,000 words. And that's another thing. A lot of times writers write 100,000 word plus behemoth books that need to be shorter stories.
that's so real. I feel like I hope a lot of people feel called out.
I didn't mean to call anyone out, but
No, I
um
don't want to be rude, but like that's a real thing,
yeah. No,
especially
I hope it's helpful. Yeah, because I had to a lot of what I'm saying has just come from me realizing my own mistakes. And I totally thought like the first manuscript that I wrote, it was like a contemporary fantasy. I was like, well, I don't know what happens next. I'm just gonna make up stuff. Like I'm just gonna keep having things happening
you were
just
not
because.
always a planner.
Oh no, I wasn't. I was like, I'm just gonna have things. I had to like write a bad book first to realize like, oh, I need to probably change my ways. Um, yeah, so I totally thought like you just made up interesting things and just had them happen because you could as the author and that would, make an interesting book. And that's what makes a painfully uninteresting book.
I feel like I'm in like a like a master class right now.
Thank you.
Uh oh, but I forgot what I was gonna say though.
Sorry.
No, that's good. I mean, I'm having a great time, and I think everyone is.
Okay, I hope so.
Um, okay. All right. Well, we'll go back to my notes then. It's fine.
Okay, yeah, yeah.
Uh, so I know you've said that you always you're drawn to horror, you're drawn to creating horror, and that you loved writing Such Lovely Skin.
Hmm.
Um, what I'm trying to make this a bigger question.
Hmm.
Um, what do you love about it, especially compared to other kinds of writing that you have a lot of experience with?
Um, yeah. So horror, I think. Well, I think you can go explore anything. I feel like the other genres are, at least just in my limited experience, because I mostly only read horror. So, I haven't read like 100 sci-fi novels or anything. Um, so I might just be like ignorantly making claims. But from my limited exposure outside the horror genre, it feels more confined. Like fantasy has its specific tropes, the weakling rises, the kingdom falls and the heir inherits whatever. Like it just feels more expected and like they kind of go through the same like routines. Whereas horror, I've read literary horror, I've read like weird splatterpunk horror, I've read like space horror. It just feels like there's a lot more crossover and like it can be almost anything. And like when I go into a horror novel, I'm less sure of what I'm going to get because I know horror can like bridge into so many different fields. Whereas when I go into a fantasy story, I'm know it's going to be like one of three variations, which is good for that genre. Like it appeals to its readers and like I get why people like it. And when I'm in that mood, it's great. But like for horror, I really like the unexpected in my own writing and my reading experiences. And I get that when I read horror. Yeah. Horror novels also tend to be short or shorter. I have like limited attention span issues and I like a short book, a short, snappy book. Horror books also tend to have, a lot of tension. I need that tension to keep me going. And I like, reading about protagonists in terrible scenarios. I like feeling that like stress and how are they going to get out of it kind of thing. Where is this going? Um, I like when a book raises questions immediately, and I find that, horror books do that.
Yeah, they do. Um, I You reminded me of something. We had someone on here, Rachel Corsini, author of Sushi and Sea Lions. I was going to say it backwards. I was going to say Sea Lions and Sushi. Um,
Uh-huh.
and she had trouble selling her book because, well, like several places said they would pick it up, except she would have to do the formula. So she was somewhere between romance and women's fiction, right?
Hmm.
And a handful of presses were like, yeah, but you have to make it follow the formula. Um,
Hmm.
or we can't sell it as this genre. And I think that's such a bummer because like yes, for sure, like romance is the number one selling genre.
Hmm.
And like yes, for sure, we like what we like and we want what we want, right? Like
Hmm.
I veer this way because it's what I want. And that's awesome. That's like relaxing. You know how you're how it's gonna end, whatever. But what a bummer for like living life outside of that. That wasn't
Yeah,
yeah. So there's that, which is relevant to what you said.
for sure.
One of the horror genres you said I have never heard of. Did you say splatterpunk?
Yeah. Yes, I did. Yeah. Don't ask me to
No,
define all the
you
horror
don't have to explain it. I just want to write
because
it
I
down.
don't want. I'm in like a horror. I'm in like a couple like Facebook groups and like Reddit subreddits where like people discuss horror genres, and I've
Mhm.
learned. And yes, there's like extreme, yeah, like gory, yes, like blood splatter. There's so many sh sub-genres of horror that I've learned, and people can be very intense about
Yes.
these genres are, so I didn't even want to go into that. But I have learned um that the horror community and their subgenres are vast.
But I was excited about that bit about horror because there are so many times when somebody will be, well, I'll mention something and someone will be like, "Oh, well, I don't engage with horror." Because people say engage all the time.
Mhm.
Uh,
Yeah, right.
and I'll be like, "Well, but it's not horror. And I don't know. That's a testament to me of how cool horror is. I'm thinking of like The People Under the Stairs,
Hmm.
um, or Candyman, where
Hmm.
I'm like, well, but it's not horror. I'm like, I mean, I guess an urban legend comes to life and kills
Yeah,
people, but like that's not the point.
right.
Uh, yeah. And I think I don't know. It the
Hmm.
book. I would not have called it horror if you had asked me what genre it was. Uh,
Yeah,
I feel like it's not about the spooky thing. It's about getting through
right.
trauma. Like,
Yeah, yeah, right. Yeah,
and it's not scary. I don't know.
yeah. No, it's frustrating as a horror author. I have so many people who are like, I don't I don't want to read that because I don't do horror. I don't do scary. And I'm just like, hey, you won't even try? Like,
For me,
yeah, right. And I do think about like I wonder if this was any other genre, would they say that to me? Like if I'd written a romance book, would they be like, I don't do romance? I mean, maybe. I say that,
I
but it
I
feels
have a
less
few friends who
common.
write romance, and I'm like, I'm always one of my things in life is to read outside my comfort zone.
Hmm.
But reading friends' romance is
Hmm.
uncomfortable.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Like, I know you though.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Yeah, I have also beta read like a few romance books for my friends, and I think I'm not that uncomfortable, but I can see how that would be. Yes.
Well, it's fine until I am like, oh, that came out of my friend's mind. And then it's like that's a little close. Uh,
Right. Yeah.
I will still read my friend's work every time.
Yeah. I mean,
Oh,
I admire these romance authors because I would feel weird having other people read that, knowing because they're gonna know that that came out of my mind. Yeah.
but we are glad you romance writers write what you write
Oh yeah,
because
for
I
sure. I
can't do.
admire it. I wish I could write romance. If I could be one of those romance writers who's just like churning them out and like making $1 million on Kindle Unlimited, I would absolutely be doing that.
Oh yeah. Well, if I could churn any writing out, I would live that
Yeah.
life. Uh, um, okay, so this is sort of a silly, like this is a very I don't know, this is like a baby steps question.
Hmm.
Um, is there anything you learned writing Such Lovely Skin about writing, about Viv, about you that you think is worth sharing with us?
Yeah, I did.
Me and
I
my window.
learned, sorry, what?
Me and my window.
Oh yeah, yeah. Um, Gosh, what did I learn?
I mean, it's okay if nothing comes to mind. It
Yeah,
was
no, I
a
mean,
long
I
time ago.
learned, yeah, I'm trying to think about like during the writing process. During the writing process, I mean, I learned, I feel like things that I already said about, I did change like what happened to the sister a lot to like make this hit Vivian harder. I changed
Mm.
aspects of her character with my editor. Like Viv made her more of a liar. Um, all things to like make the antagonist, the doppelganger, stronger against her.
Hmm.
And so this made me think about, how can you create the strongest antagonist to go against your protagonist? So these are things that I learned, yes, while writing. I learned more things after publishing. Um, so there's that. I know that that wasn't your question, but I feel like I could answer that one more specifically. I should have proofread this better before I let them print it. Yes.
Oh God.
I I real
I don't remember being bothered.
Okay,
And
yeah, yeah. No,
I'm
thank you.
somebody who'll just
That
circle things
soothes
and
me. But I have had a couple of people, come up to me and be like, this this airport wouldn't really be here. And I realized that like those were actually things that I had I don't want to like bash anyone, but there are some things in here that were supposed to get fixed and apparently slipped through the cracks. And whoever was supposed to make those final edits didn't. So I was shocked to realize that some things made it into the final copy. And then some other things like, God, I don't even want to out myself right now, but there's a couple like really, really niche like gaming things that I realized I did not phrase. I don't know what I was thinking. I should have been more diligent, but and then there are a couple other things that, I really need to like not read the bad reviews, but I read them and I'm like, yeah, I I can see that. Um, and so I guess what I learned was I reached this point with this book where I was like, I never want to look at it again. Just print it. Like, I don't care. And I felt that way in that moment, but I wish I'd taken just a little more time with it.
yeah, no, I mean, I didn't notice, right?
Okay. Yeah. No, thank you. Thank you. But it
I'm
haunts you as the creator.
I
Yeah.
am I know about games. I dated a lot of gamers.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
But I don't play them. So if your audience is me, you're good.
Yeah. 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 No, for like 90% of readers, it's fine. I also, okay, one thing that I did learn was my focus on the book was very much, on Vivian and her arc of self-forgiveness. I almost like, this is also like exposing me in ways that I'll just go with it. Um,
Listen, if you write a book, you're gonna have some
I know.
psychological revealing moments.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I like barely thought of her parents at all. Like I didn't even want, I think part of that, I don't mean to like throw excuses out there, but like my parents, I had such a shitty relationship with them that like her parents always felt like super fake to me. I just like I didn't treat them seriously like very much at all when I was writing them. I tried a little bit toward the end, but
Oh, I love her dad.
I yeah, her dad's like really cute and sweet and I like definitely pulled a little bit from my own life
Mm,
that, but like I made them like so doughy and like just the nicest people in the world. And like truly, you need like stupid parents in horror. But anyway, I guess
stupid or
they were
absent.
just like, yeah, yeah, yeah. Like, and hers are a little bit of both. But
News me, their daughter died.
yeah, yeah, yeah. No, they've been through a lot. But the reaction that I've had toward her parents, I realize why people feel that way, and I just like didn't anticipate it at all because those characters weren't at the forefront of my mind at all. So I was surprised by how readers will react to the secondary characters, and I guess it makes sense. Like they're just consuming the novel in a way that I, as the writer, was not. And so yeah, because I was very concerned with, like the doppelganger and like making it intense enough and like making it probe Vivian in all the worst ways and hit all of her bruises. And like the atmosphere and Vivian reaching, her climatic moment. And I just, it is surprising to me.
I bawled my entire face off.
Oh, thank you. I'm glad. Yeah, and that was like very emotional to write. And yeah, I just, yeah.
Once you brought up her parents, I like the whole plot went through my head, and I was just
Hmm.
like, ah. I think I told you this. I was reading it one morning, and my spouse got up, and I'm just sitting on the couch sobbing, and he was like, "Are you okay?" And I was like, "I'm reading," and he was like, "That video game book."
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean like that the way that your reading of it was like the way I hoped people would read it, like my intended reader. But we don't always get the reader we hope for.
I
Um, yeah.
if it's okay to mention, I guess it's
Hmm.
maybe too late. Uh, I have loved your posting of your reviews that are just like very weird.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, no, my Instagram and threads and everything are public. Yeah. Yeah, all the takes on the book. Yeah.
Well, friends, you should check out her socials so that you can see these ridiculous reviews of this book. They're so much fun. You said that you shouldn't read the bad reviews, and I mean, you shouldn't, but from what I've seen that you
Hmm.
post, I'm like, what? They're like funny reviews. They're like,
Yeah.
did you read it though?
Yeah, yeah. Some of them are funny. Some of the ones that I don't post are because they are spoilers.
Hmm.
Some people will just come out and like tell the ending of the book. Yeah, so a lot of the bad ones that I don't share are about that. Yeah, but some of them are very funny. Yeah.
I guess I guess I'm just thinking about how you can be mad at the ending. That's all. Um, I was not tracking time, so I'm gonna transition into
Hmm.
you've got stuff coming up. You mentioned you have a class coming up. Um, so let's start there.
Yeah, I'm teaching a genre fiction writing class at Portland, and so you can take it in person or online. And so any sort of genre writing, like horror, fantasy, sci-fi, bring it. And we'll go through. I mean, you could work an existing idea or start from scratch, but we'll go through a very similar story genius slash my own writing process where we'll figure out who our protagonists and antagonists are and then plot it from there, very much focusing on, cause and effect, no random chaos. Yeah. Um, there's that.
Yeah, and yeah, you said this already. I think everything Porchlight does is hybrid. And I
Hmm.
know that their tech for that is really good. So
Hmm.
that is 4 weeks on Wednesdays. I wrote down Tuesdays, my goodness.
Yeah,
In
Wednesday
on
in
Wednesdays
March.
in March.
Yeah. Hmm.
Uh and then I'm really excited about because this is directly here in this community in the Quad Cities. You're going to be at the Atlas Collective for a reading, and we're going to hang out
Hmm.
on April 3rd, probably at 6 or 6:30.
Hmm. Yeah,
Uh,
sounds right.
yeah. So I'm super pumped about that. They're going to make, gosh, what if they don't do this? And I like have lied to the whole world. They're going to make custom drinks for the event.
Oh, really?
Really
Okay.
fun. Um,
That sounds cool.
I'm just pumped. I can't believe it's so far away. I was like, it's basically next week. No, it's not next week.
Yeah,
It's
it's
over a month away.
yeah.
Okay, well, that was really fast. I will, I thought we were gonna like talk about the events for a minute, but that was pretty straightforward.
Yeah.
We will be hosting you sooner or later. at the Writing Center for a fiction workshop.
Hmm.
What else should we need to? You have a book coming out in September. Can you tell us about that? And I guess I can let you go sooner or later.
Yeah, so that's my adult horror novel, The Mean Ones. It'll be a paperback actually, not a hardcover. And that's about, I talked about it a little bit before, but the cult survivor, dual timeline, half in the present, half in the past. Yeah, so I'm very excited about that one. It's a lot like Midsummer, and like Grady Hendrix, T. Kingfisher, if you know those horror authors. Yeah.
I know Grady Hendrix.
Yeah.
What about your, I know you probably can't say much because you're like working on editing and selling them and whatever, but
Mhm.
what can we expect from your future pre already written 3 books?
Yeah. Hopefully I'll have a horror fantasy that's YA out in the world.
Okay, that's
We'll
fun.
see. Yeah.
That's the hybrid
Yeah.
for
That is a
once.
genre crossover that was very challenging to write and that um you know I've I reached this point during my writing where I'm like there's no way I'm going to finish this book. Twice that's happened to me. It happened with the Mean Ones and with this horror fantasy that I'm speaking about where I'm like it's too hard. I've just wasted all this time. I'm not going to finish it. And then I do. And it's like a
Yay.
miracle. Yeah. Um, it's absurd how many times I almost quit the Mean One. So it's amazing that it survived. Anyway, so hopefully I'll have a horror fantasy someday. And then hopefully I'll have another adult horror book. It seems like I'm going this pattern of like YA horror, adult horror, YA horror, adult horror. Yeah.
I'm glad for it.
Oh, thank you.
Is there anything else you want to add while I have you?
Um, no, I think I'm good. Yeah, this was great.
Cool. Then I will give some updates about the Midwest Writing Center, which will require me to grab my planner and not knock anything over. I brought lotion in here and it's tall.
Oh, yeah.
And I was like, I'm for sure gonna knock this over. Uh, okay, so let's start with submissions. We're taking submissions right now for the Foster Stall chapbook series. Um, Subs close March 1. That's any genre of writing. We will not, though, we will not take illustrations, we will not take translation at this time. Um, yeah, chapbooks are super short books. I did a whole video on it last week, so I guess you could check that out. Um, they tend to have a theme. We want you to send us your chapbook length manuscript. If you have questions, probably all the information's on our website, but you can email us as well, send us a DM, whatever it is that works for you. We're also accepting or applications are open for the Great River Writers Retreat, which is a fully funded retreat to a gorgeous monastery in rural Rock Island. It sounds so funny to say it. It's just the most gorgeous place, but like you would not know you were in Rock Island. Um, Fully funded. Everything is there. We ask that you submit. Uh, sorry, there was something in my face. We ask that you submit, your CV, a writing sample. The writing sample has to be from the project that you intend to work on while you're here. Part of the residency includes a headliner reading, some promotion of your work, and other fun things. That I believe is open. Oh, you know what? I don't know when that application closes, so you should check out our website. We're accepting applications too to the Young Emerging Writers Summer Internship Program. It is our 20th anniversary, so we are going to have just a super celebration. We're going to do some stuff with people from the old days. I was in year 2. I'm people from the old days. Um, that is a paid summer internship, 3 days a week for 7 weeks, for writers 15 to 19 years old of any genre, any experience level. We get to learn about writing, learn about editing, workshopping, and publishing. We the interns get published for all of these things, including reading. They get a book. It's a really, really just incredible, clearly life-changing. I've made this my life program. And then what else do we have coming up? We've got I will be at the Quad City Ballet this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, writing love letters on demand. If you're really nice, I will have a, not if you're really nice, I forgot I was going to have somebody with me. We will also have poems on demand. So give a donation, fill out a little form, and you can give your date to the ballet a beautiful piece of writing to go home with. That's this Saturday, the 22nd, and Sunday, the 23rd. Balletqc.com is where you'll find the information. Ballet QC is a professional theater. All of the dancers and staff and everything are living and working in the Quad Cities. So it's a really special thing that we have here in our community. Um, Oh, here's a shout out for the Atlas Collective. They have, and I will be at this because I'm really excited about it, an event, a book reading and signing next Friday. That is also a fortune telling event. That is the 28th at 6 p.m. Um, I'm sorry, the 27th at 6 p.m. The 28th at 7 p.m. is something else. Then coming up in March, on the first 4 Saturdays of March, we have our fiction series workshop. You can take all 4 classes, or one, or two, or three. It's a discount for taking all four. Each of those will focus on a different element in fiction writing, with author Jason Tanamore, who will be on Write More Light on Thursday. Um, should I keep going? What more do we have coming up? Yeah, I'll stop in March. Uh, we're debuting a new program for folks who want to preserve their family legacies in March. It'll be the first one will be Thursday, March 13th at 1 p.m. at the Midwest Writing Center. This group is gonna be a supportive and generative for making sure your family legacies and stories get get saved for future generations. And then our next Spectra event will be the Foster Stall chapbook series release party, March 15th. That's at Talks as always. Doors will be at 6. So, yeah, lots of times to come and hang out with me and do fun writing things. Whew. Tatiana, do you have a prompt for us?
Yeah,
And I
do.
wait, hold on. I will say, folks who are watching along, who are waiting for this, set yourself a timer, however much time you can set aside to do your prompt, and whatever comes, awesome. Okay, take it away. I will
Okay,
skip that
so
caveat.
yeah. Um, I want you to think of a protagonist. This can be an existing protagonist. Protagonist doesn't really matter, but vague protagonist. Okay. And then your antagonist. And I want you to write a scene where your antagonist personally attacks your protagonist. And this antagonist should be tailor-made to your protagonist. Things to think about. What does your antagonist want? And how does that conflict with your protagonist wants? What does your monster look like? Uh, how does what it look like reflect exactly what your protagonist fears?
That is so beautiful. I was writing it down so that I can copy it into the
Oh,
description. You know,
yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, whoa. Um, thank you for that prompt. That is really, I keep wanting to say kick ass about everything, and I don't know why that phrase is in my head so hard today. Um, that's awesome. You've been so awesome. I can't wait to see you at the Atlas Collective and at the Writing Center.
Hmm.
For hanging out with us today, friends on the internet. As always, please write more light into your life.